What's going on YouTube? We are 1 week from Selection Sunday. That means Power Conference tournaments are about to start. Conference tournaments have already started, but now we're going to get into the Power Conference tournaments. So it's a great time to make predictions. Starting with the ACC, I'm taking Virginia Tech over Wake Forest, Stanford over Pittsburgh, and SMU over Syracuse. Basically, I'm taking the bubble team over the bad team. I'm taking Florida State over Cal. I think Cal's bubble burst right here. Florida State's been under the radar good lately. I'm taking an upset Virginia Tech over Clemson. Virginia Tech is a bubble team, and I think they're going to play like it. And Clemson has been slipping a little bit lately. They haven't been playing great as of late, so I think it's a winnable game for Virginia Tech. NC State over Stanford. That's actually a rematch of a season finale that NC State barely lost, so I think they get their revenge. And Louisville over SMU. I think McKeel Brown will be fine. I know he's kind of questionable coming into this tournament, but I think he'll be playing. I think he'll be healthy. And then we have the biggest shock of Champ Week. Florida State takes down Duke. Like I said, Florida State's been playing well lately. They're coming into this with momentum. And really, if they have played the entire season like they've played the last month and a half, they would be a tournament team. The last month and a half is really when they've been playing well. And they come into this game against one of the biggest, arguably the best team in the country, nothing to lose. And then another smaller upset, Virginia Tech over North Carolina. Without Caleb Wilson, I really think this is a winnable game for them. And then Virginia over NC State and Louisville over Miami. I think Louisville's the better team right there. And in an interesting semifinal matchup, I'm taking Florida State over Virginia Tech. Like I said, I like how they've been playing lately, and I feel like that would be their game to win. And Louisville over Virginia, that one's close. I think without Caleb Wilson, the second best team in the ACC is between Virginia and Louisville. I think it's really close, but I think Louisville pulls it off. And in a bizarre 6-8 ACC championship, crazier things have happened. I think Florida State runs out of gas, and Louisville ends up taking it. If Florida State did this, they could maybe sneak into the next round, but I think they would have to win the entire thing to make the tournament. Now to the most boring power conference in the country this season. I'm taking Providence over Butler. I think they're a little bit better. They have Jason Edwards. Xavier over Marquette. I think Xavier is better than a 10 seed. And Georgetown over DePaul. Georgetown has dealt with a lot this season, but they still have talent. I think they pull a mini upset. It's going to be all chalk from here. St. John's, Seton Hall, UConn, Villanova. UConn taking down St. John's as it should be, as it's going to be expected to be. Now to the Big Ten. The best conference in college basketball this year is either the Big Ten or the Big 12. Oregon over Maryland. Maryland's the more banged up team. Northwestern over Penn State. I like Nick Martinelli and what they've been doing. Iowa over Oregon. Washington over USC. That's a weird game, but I have no idea how USC looks without their two best players. Indiana over Northwestern. That's a sneaky potential upset, but I think Indiana comes away with it. And then Minnesota over Rutgers. Ohio State, Iowa is an interesting game. It's hard to say who the better team is, but I think Iowa pulls it off. Wisconsin over Washington, Purdue over Indiana, and UCLA over Minnesota. The semifinals are mostly chalk. Nebraska-Purdue, that's another close game where it's hard to say who the better team is. I think Purdue pulls off. It's probably going to be considered an upset, even though, it's not a normal 2-7. It's a lot closer than that, but it would be an upset. And I think Purdue pulls it off. Michigan gets past Illinois, but watch out for Illinois. I think Michigan State wins this game over Purdue because this Nebraska-Purdue game is going to be a lot closer than the Michigan State-UCLA game. So Michigan State comes into this game less banged up, and then Michigan beats Michigan State. They're going to be the clear favorites. Now to the Big 12, Cincinnati over Utah. Baylor over Arizona State, that's a really close game. I think Baylor comes away with it. BYU over Kansas State and Oklahoma State over Colorado. I think they're the better team. I'm taking Cincinnati over UCF. I think Cincinnati has been one of the hottest teams in the country the last month, and they're a bubble team while UCF is safely in, so Cincinnati might be the more desperate team having more to play for. Iowa State easily over Baylor, BYU over West Virginia. BYU, even without Reggie Saunders, is the better team there, and TCU holds off Oklahoma State. The semifinals are all chalk. Arizona, Iowa State, Houston, Kansas. I think this Arizona-Iowa State game is kind of like the Michigan-Illinois game. It has upset potential, but I think Arizona holds them off. And then Houston gets past Kansas in a thriller, and Arizona beat Houston on the road without Kobe Pete. Now Houston has to play them on a neutral site with Arizona at full strength. That's disastrous. Arizona, they're going to be the favorites for sure, and they're going to win it. Ending with the SEC, Kentucky over LSU, Auburn over Mississippi State. They need to win that to stay alive. Texas over Ole Miss, and Oklahoma over South Carolina. Kentucky over Missouri. I think Kentucky's the better team. Tennessee over Auburn. Georgia over Texas. And this game is really close. Texas A&M and Oklahoma. That's a big bubble game. Oklahoma's kind of snuck into the bubble while Texas A&M has been on the bubble for a while. But I think Texas A&M pulls it off because they've been playing better in conference play. Florida over Kentucky. Tennessee pulls off a small upset over Vanderbilt. Alabama over Georgia, and Texas A&M with the shock of the SEC tournament over Arkansas. Texas A&M knows they need a big win. Arkansas is coming into this without Carter Knox. And I think that it's true that being the bye team, getting that extra rest is beneficial. But this is just one extra game for us, and I think the SEC tournament being a big environment, I think first game nerves are a potential factor. And that goes for any power conference tournament. I think Florida beats Tennessee, Alabama gets past Texas A&M, and I think Alabama might be the second best team in the SEC, so good championship, but Florida is going to be the heavy favorite, and I think they pull it off. So those are power conference tournament predictions. Hopefully they aren't that bad, and I think Champ Week will be a lot of fun.